Good morning, Mr. Tabach. Glad to see you. So we have 12 questions today from our students. And the first question is, the US has provided numerous weapons to Ukraine, but I wonder, do Americans also provide Ukrainians with training on how to use the weapons? Please.
Yes, very good question. Thank you. I'm glad that you're asking those questions. Absolutely, by our law, by United States law, we will not provide any weapons unless we train and certify people that we're issuing these weapons from the airplane to a rifle or a pistol. Those people have to be certified and trained by first our advisors, and then we train the trainers who can train the local people to whom we provide the weaponry.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, how does the Russia-Ukraine conflict hurt Russia in terms of their economy and army force?
Well, it's not only hurts Russia, it destroys Russia. That country is destroyed because thousands, hundreds of thousands of people left Russia, and mostly it's men, mostly it's able men because they don't want to be drafted. And it's mostly educated men, the ones that are producing things. And of course, it's close already to 100,000 men that have been killed in Ukraine. Again, it's a productive young man that are future. And the sanctions against Russia that are put on by the West, destroying the Russian economy, which was not that strong to begin with. So I think Mr. Putin was able to destroy country and Russian nation as it's known as Russian people, unfortunately.
Quite indeed. And the third question, at present, with such large differences in resources, territory, and population, is the multi-country assistance to Ukraine in weapons the main reason that Ukraine was able to narrow the gap and gain an advantage on a battlefield? Or are there other factors?
No, well, I think we didn't provide that much of weaponry to Ukrainians. It did help, whatever we provided. It did help in the original fight, but I think mostly it is due to bravery and dedication of the Ukrainian military, Ukrainian people, Ukrainian special forces, Ukrainian intelligence forces, and of course, Ukrainian general staff headed by General Zaluzhny, who never served in the Soviet army. Their Western training and their love for their country, their love for their land, and idea of freedom and independence is not empty words for these people, and they fight very, very hard.
Okay, now the fourth question. What is the role of nuclear weapons in modern war? Personally, I think it is more like a bargaining chip than a weapon that could be fired because the first country to use it would face sanctions by other countries. That's the question from a student.
Yes, it's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. Today, in today's world, in the 21st century, trying to blow up the Earth is stupid, and the nuclear weapons are weapons that are supposed to kind of prevent the war. So you wouldn't attack a country because you can't invade a country with a nuclear weapon, right? It's a weapon of restraint, as we say. So any country that's going to try to use a strategic or tactical nuclear weapon is bound to be destroyed. So yes, it's a weapon of restraint.
Okay. The fifth question. What do you think Russia wants from this war? In other words, under which conditions or what kinds of benefits to Russia or to Putin will Putin be willing to stop? Also, what can we do to help the victims of this war rather than fighting for political positions?
Well, I think that the Russian people don't want anything from this war. They don't understand why this war is going on. I mean, except they were told them that they're fascists and there's all these Nazis in Ukraine, but everybody realizes there is no such thing. Actually, Ukraine had 5 presidents. None of those presidents ended up in prison or killed. While Russia had all that time only one president, it was Putin, and democracy is nowhere to be seen in Russia. So most of the people in Russia realize that this is a war of one man, and he's surrounding his inner circle. He's a KGB thug. He wants to invade, he wants to conquer, and he wants to build the Soviet Union back, or whatever mental idea he has there. I mean, what was the purpose of the war that towards the end that Hitler had, or the Nazis had? They knew they lost. So the same thing, but they wouldn't quit. I don't think Putin will quit until we will make him quit, until we will remove him from this earth. So this has got to be a political will of the Western countries to do it. How can we help? Support Ukraine. Give Ukraine what it needs. Do not support Russia. Do not support Putin. And we all, as a world, as a nation, as a world community, we must stand up to and prevent those kind of things. That's what the United Nations was created for. But unfortunately, Russia sits on the United Nations Security Council, and they can veto any kind of a decision. So we must change the way we used to live for the last 70, 80 years. It has to be changed, and Russia has to be reduced to the way Germany was or Japan was after World War II.
Okay. Question number 6. Judging from the current situation, the Russia-Ukraine war has a tendency to become protracted. Is the reason for this related to the interests of the United States? Because the United States requires European countries to increase military spending to the NATO standard of 2% of GDP. The increase in military spending will also benefit the sales of American-made weapons.
Well, yes, I think it is true, and Europe has to play a bigger role because it is going on in the backyard of European countries. The war is in Europe, and they have to take a lead in it. But again, they're all looking at the United States. They're all looking at the Biden administration, which we know Biden's son and the inner circle were involved in corruption in Ukraine. They used the Ukraine for different corrupt schemes. And there's Davos, the meetings in Davos and globalization. They are willing, and they rather deal with Putin because this is a known entity rather than deal with a new nucleus in Europe, which will move the center of gravity from European countries such as Germany, France, to Ukraine, Baltic states, and so forth, Poland, and they will become countries that people would want to invest in and build in because they're going to be the true democracies without those left leanings of Davos, where we want to create like this one huge China in the world, where we all have the same of everything, and there's going to be just a bunch of people running the world. There's just a few people running the world. So yes, they protract this because they rather freeze this conflict. They actually want to get rid of Ukraine now, I believe, because Ukraine is not really, it doesn't have any resources. It's not a country that things depend on. And Ukrainian people tend to be rebellious people. They tend to, like Israel, for instance, where they protest, that they fight for their survival, and they realize that nobody's going to come and save them. So they have to defend and fend for themselves.
Question number 7. Will the outcome of the Russia-Ukraine war be a compromise or a stalemate between the two sides? It is quite clear that this is also a war between Russia and the West. Will this war reshape the world order?
Yes, well, as I said, it will reshape. Once Ukraine wins, the center of gravity will move. Ukraine will become a very strong democratic country where there will be investments. There's going to be reparations, compensations for all the destructions and death and suffering that Russia caused. and hopefully there will be a Marshall Plan. Um, is this a war between the United States and Russia? No, I don't think so. I think it's a war between darkness and light. I think it's a war between right and wrong, and we're all involved in it. Unfortunately, Ukraine is doing most of, all of the fighting and paying the highest price for it, and we're very slow in assisting Ukraine, in my personal opinion. If there would be a compromise, or if there would be a stalemate, that would mean that the Ukraine lost. That would give time for Russia to regroup. Nobody would invest in Ukraine, just like it was those since 2014 to 2022. Those 7 years, there was a stalemate. We knew that the Russians are going to come back and continue the fight until they destroy the entire Ukraine. So there should be no stalemate. There should be no negotiations. There should be no compromise. The only option we have at this point is a total destruction of Russian army, absolute clearing all of the Ukrainian land from it, including Donbass, Lugansk, and Crimea, return to Ukraine, to what it's supposed to, its borders, which we actually kind of promised to defend when in 1996 Ukraine, Belarus, and Kazakhstan handed their nuclear weapons to Russia under assurance of Budapest Memorandum that their border, Ukrainian and Kazakh and Belarusian borders, will not be violated by any of the signing parties, which was the United States, Europe, Great Britain, and Russia. And all the weapons went to Russia, and the United States paid for it. So there's no way you can come to any compromise with this with the KGB guy. It's the only way is complete destruction of Russian army, disarmament of Russia, getting rid of the Russian nuclear weapons, and hopefully Russia will continue to break down on several other countries.
All right. Question number 8. Will any country stop their economic sanctions against Russia because of the coming winter?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope they will stand their ground, so you lower your thermostat a couple of degrees. Nobody died from it yet.
Okay. Question number 9. Will Russia start the war with the main purpose of breaking down the global economy?
Well, they already have. They're trying to do it, and unfortunately, many Western leaders are collaborating in it by playing into Russian hands, or trying to postpone it or play up to it, just like in World War II. The Western world tried to play up to Hitler. A little bit of Czechoslovakia, a little bit of Poland, but the Jews get killed. No, you can't do that. They're going to destroy. They're going to take advantage of it.
Question number 10. How long do you think the Russia-Ukraine war will last, and will the United States intervene directly?
I don't know the answer to it. It all depends on the political will of the Western world, of the Western citizens, of the world community, of people who are not lazy and not caring anymore, because we've been living very comfortable lives for the last few generations. And hopefully the world community will stand up and force their leaders to take the right stand, to be on the right side of history.
And the final question. Many people compare the war between Russia and Ukraine to the situation between Taiwan and China. In what ways are the two similar? What are the differences? Will the strategy of the US regarding the Taiwan-China relationship be any different when compared to their strategy regarding Ukraine? That's quite a Freudian slip there.
Yeah, well, there is some similarities, I presume. The only thing is that Taiwan was never really recognized as an independent country by the United Nations and by even the United States. Taiwan is not really Ukraine, economically wise. China is not really Russia. I think in China there's more. There's not a KGB guy in charge of it. Chinese are not slaves. Chinese are very pragmatic people. I don't think Chinese look for war. But I think that question would be better directed to Professor Rappaport.
Thank you very much. Those are all the questions.